Hey everybody, let's see if we can get this right in one shot. It feels like every time we do one of these Facebook Live videos, it starts off normal and then all of a sudden I'm like sideways.
So far, so good.
Green. This is an interesting day for us here. I don't know, my desk has gotten higher since the last time. I don't know what happened. We just brought this in from outside and someone resized it. So if I'm gonna just get a taller chair. Thank you for anyone who's already joined us. I'm sure we're going to start to see you guys filtering in soon. As always, we do this as a bit of a Q&A. So if you happen to be watching and you want to ask anything, chime in the comments, say hi, ask us questions, tell us your thoughts on the things that are coming out of my mouth, and we'll have a little discussion back and forth. It's always really, really informative and great to do that. The last video, we got a ton of questions and a ton of great feedback even after the video. And what was nice was the conversation continued, on our page. It continued in some of the collector groups that are out there. There were some great conversations going there, and it was all super appreciated. And one of the things that came out of that was we went and we re-looked at the payment plans for our life-size Tauntaun bust and the life-size Chewbacca bust that we do right now, which are both pretty high-end items. They're all handmade in our studios right here in New York. In fact, I'm pointing because there's 6 of them on the other side of that wall on the Tauntauns. A few were spoken for, but there's, I think, 3 still left that are, essentially ready to ship for anybody that doesn't want to go through the wait that normally comes when we make those to order. But and what was neat was we actually experimented a little bit with Partially, the company that does our payment plans, and looked into some of their deeper features. And so now on both of those, the payment plan is set for 6 to 12 months, and that's the choice of whoever's setting up the plan. The down payment actually has a range that you can put down. That's also up to you. And by changing that down payment and by changing the number of payments, you basically get to set how much you want to pay each month. And that's kind of a cool thing. We haven't done it before on other stuff. What's nice about those two is that they're made to order items that we tend to sell in very small groups, so it's not going to be too much of a burden on the office staff here, at least to try it. But we're going to give it a shot, and I think it's going to be a neat thing to experiment with. And hopefully that goes well. And again, on stuff like that, chime in the comments, let us know your feedback, let us know what you think of that change. If there's other stuff you'd love to see, maybe you'll think of something we haven't thought of that is worth experimenting with. And I assume that's why everyone's here. It's just to hear about changes in, the payment plans and things like that. So good chat. Have a good day, everybody. Nice to see everyone. So I assume a lot of you are here because you saw our post this morning about the archive collection. I think in our last video, I may have said the words, "We've been busy." We've been very busy. This is something that has been in the works for a very long time. Something that we've been dying to talk about for months and months right now. But the same folks that say what we can and can't show also tell us we got to hold some stuff back from time to time. So we had to hold off on sharing that until we got a little closer to Celebration, which is where we're going to share as much as we're able about this new collection. And it's an interesting thing to even call it a new collection, because the thing that we realized as we were developing it was this was a collection we'd sort of already started. A lot of our pieces have lineage back to the original props. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, me personally, I'm a huge fan of the original props and films. I like to collect that stuff. I like to emulate that stuff. Whenever I've made replicas over the years, my goal was always to replicate the prop as closely as I could and not just make a statue of a character or a bust or something like that. I wanted these things that when you opened up that package and looked at it, it felt like you were looking at the real thing. It felt like you took a piece out of the archives or out of a prop museum or a traveling show and brought it into your house. And to me, that was super important, just as a collector and just as a maker. And so that's informed what we've done here. That's really shaped. It's really been one of the founding things, the founding principles in all of our replica work. And over the last couple of years, we've been super, super lucky to get access to these original treasures from these movies that we are all completely obsessed with. And that access and advent of new technology and things like that has given us the opportunity to digitally capture a lot of this stuff. And in some cases, we have access to things like molds and things too. So, we mentioned the digital stuff in the archive collection announcement, mostly just because that is the primary way to capture these things, because they're so, they're aged, fragile, there are things you couldn't possibly mold. But there are some cases, and some of the things that we have in the works, where, either they were molds we had or they're molds that we have access to. So there's a lot of different ways to the whole lineage thing, and it's something where we're excited to just explore whatever works the best for each particular piece. And to summarize for anybody that hasn't read, we have announced the Star Wars Archive Collection on our site today, and the idea of this collection is a continuation and expansion of the work we've been doing, creating these replicas with really just the best possible lineage to them. It's going to include busts, it's going to include maquettes, it's going to include prop replicas, and at the end of the day, our goal is to give people that feeling that you have brought something into your house that feels like it could be the real prop. Maybe not physically, because, okay, something's old latex or foam that's real fragile or falling apart or aging, and we're doing these things in materials that are durable, they're going to last. So something like our Rancor, when we go back to that, our Rancor replica was developed from a scan of the original prop in the archives, a thing that we had right in front of us. Spent so much time with that original prop, and gives people that feeling. I've got one, I'm pointing at it, you can't see it, but I've got one in the office right here, and every time I look at it, it gives me that same feeling of when I was around the real one. And that's what we want to create with all of these. Our chess set really falls in that same realm. Those were developed with the original 3D assets that Phil Tippett's team did for the sequel movies, based on scans and photogrammetry and all sorts of reference of the original stuff. The CZ3 certainly fits in with this. It's an interesting thing to say, like, oh, we've got this new thing we're going to do, and we've already been doing it. But the real new part of it is the, scope, the amount, the variety of what's to come. The amount of time we have spent going in and getting access to these pieces and doing everything we can to capture whatever information we can, down to colors and Pantones and all of that stuff, and fabric matching and whatever we can do. I wish I could, ignore some of these signs and share a little more about what's coming, but you don't have to wait too long. So May 12th, StarWars.com is going to be running an article about our first piece in the official archive collection. It's a maquette, I can give you that, and it's really cool, and it is going to be the first of many in that maquette line. And I think, I've always had this soft spot for the concept stuff in these movies, the germination of the idea, the thing that led to the thing on screen. And maybe it doesn't even look exactly like it every time, or, you get those weird versions of Jabba the Hutt, or you get Phil Tippett's early Tauntaun sculpt, which is available on our site right now. That is one of my favorite sculpts in the whole world. Or Tony McVeigh's Gamorrean. And then there's your pieces that are your original mold pieces. That's an aspect of what we're doing here. But I think to me, that's kind of the most exciting thing about this line is the Maquettes, because those are really cool. They're really varied. They're not crazy price point items. They're not, not stuff that is on the level of, let's say, a Salacious Crumb replica or the 10-piece hollow chest signature set or things like that. And it's going to give folks a chance to bring in a nice variety of really cool sculpts done by amazing artists that worked on these films we love, and do it without really breaking the bank. With that in mind, well, before I get too far, any questions coming in?
Yeah, we have one question. Is would the Rancor and soon to be released Salacious Crumb be considered archive collection pieces?
So yeah, it's something that Rob and I have been kind of talking about. It's tough to go back and take a piece that's already been made and sort of rebranded as something, but I definitely consider both of those archive collection at this point. I think in as much as this is a new venture, it is putting a name to our signature style here, putting a name to our commitment to the research and the accuracy and the authenticity and just, all this stuff that we agonize over, all this stuff that we wake up at 3 a.m. going like, oh, no, I just realized we got something wrong. We've got to redo this thing from the start because we missed one little detail. That happens. That happens a lot. But that's the sort of that's our thing, and I think that this collection is a really cool way to put a name to that. And I think it's one of those things. I hope it's one of those things that people will see the name and know what it means before they even learn too much more. And let us know if that happened for you. Let us know if you saw the logo this morning on our Facebook, or you heard the name somewhere, or saw it in a Facebook group, or maybe you were on our email list. And did it resonate for you? Did it immediately make you think, oh, I know what they're doing here?
Parminder says, will the Maquette be a signature edition?
That's a great question, Parminder. We're not going to do a ton of signature editions on the Maquettes, I think. That said, keep your eyes peeled. There's always a possibility for, one or two of those, maybe at a special point, maybe, here or there, special artist, thing like that, where that sort of thing can happen. I think I started saying earlier, May 12th, we are going to be revealing the first in that series. Between May 12th and Star Wars Celebration, we'll be talking about our exclusives for the show. We'll be slowly revealing those. We're going to have the week before Star Wars Celebration will be reveal week for us. So if you're curious about the stuff we're going to have at the show, that is going to be available at the show, the exclusives. And most of these are things like, magnets or decor or cool desk sculptures, that kind of stuff. You're going to find out all of that stuff in the week before the show. At the show itself is where you're going to see really a pretty good dose of what the archive collection is going to be for the next 6 months to a year. Probably closer to 4 or 5 months now that I'm actually looking at the board. But you'll get to, at the show, see right up close. We'll have a nice, a big glass case with, a good handful of maquettes, a good, things like some prop replicas, maybe a bust, maybe some of the, maybe a few of the previous things too, if we have space. They're actually just outside my door here trying to pack up crates for the show already because we have so much stuff to get out there. But that show, and I'm sure you'll be seeing this stuff on Force.net and Rebel Scum and Yakface and all the typical sites, and of course all the groups, the Hyperspace group, Rogue One Sith, Rogue One Sixth, that's pretty good. Copyright. The Collection Wars, Cargo Hold. I mean, there's all these great groups online, the collectors. Thank you everybody in those groups for following along with what we do. I love seeing the posts in there and interacting and getting your feedback on stuff. I'm sure once that show hits, you're going to see plenty of stuff in those groups, people taking pictures at the booth and things like that. What else do we get?
Robert asks, will all maquettes be painted moving forward, unlike the Tauntaun?
Yes. The Tauntaun was an interesting thing. Our goal on that, I mean, that was the first maquette we did. Our goal with that one was to capture that sculpture. And really, that's me on that one. It's one of my favorite sculpts that Phil ever did. One of my favorite sculpts from all of movie concept work. There's just something about that thing that's magical to me. And I got to know that sculpt from seeing versions that, like castings that Phil had, where they were always unpainted. They were always just looked like that clay sculpt. And there's these great old vintage photos of just the sculpture. So to me, recreating that was an important thing. For the future ones, they're all going to have some sort of paint. There's one or two that we have in mind that may have some subtle color variation and kind of washy stuff versus a straight up paint, but I think it's in a place that makes sense on that one, and you'll just have to kind of wait and see there. But the vast majority of the ones that we have planned are painted, and a big part of that is because we're trying to match something that is painted and that we know from being painted, and when we scanned it, it was painted, and blah blah blah. So, so that's your answer there.
All right, Tony asks, for non-attendees, where will the announcements, reviews of what you share? For non-attendees, where will be announcements and reviews of what you share?
Gotcha. So it's kind of the stuff I was going over before. You'll probably see stuff on Yakface, Yoda's News, Rebel Scum, Force.net, like all of those sort of typical Star Wars collecting news sites. Definitely hit the Facebook groups. I'm sure stuff will be there. But we'll also be posting live from the show pretty often. Maybe we'll do some quick video stuff. We'll definitely be doing photos. We will either at the show or just after the show probably do a blog post that goes over everything that was revealed. When we reveal the stuff at the show rather, you'll be getting the on sale date for every item. Or at least an approximate, if it's, most of them right now, I'm checking my board, most of them have a specific date that they're going to go live. Some of them are, just have a month or a quarter as you get further out. But that's information you'll get. Where possible, we'll try and put approximate prices on things as well. People are going to have a chance to get really up close to a lot of this stuff that we've been working on. And for us, it's just, the excitement of sharing. It's been a very, very long time that we have wanted to talk about this. It's been a very, very long time that we've wanted to share what we've been working on. In some cases, that actually benefited. There's one prop in particular that we were working on prior to this that we then found, that we then got access to. So we were doing more of a traditional prop replica of this, and then got that access and had the ability to scan a piece that is going to make that replica even more special. And that's the sort of thing where, it's tough to go back to the drawing board on something like that. You've put all this time into it already. We were literally ready to mold something, and then that opportunity came up, and it was like, well, you can't pass that up. We're not gonna put out our sculpt if we can scan the real deal. Speaking of the maquettes, one question I would have, and I'd love to see some feedback in the comments, if you're watching this afterwards on YouTube, or if you're watching this after on our page, even if it's not live, please comment. Let us know your thoughts. So, we were talking last time about the real high ticket items, things like the life-size Tauntaun bust we do, the life-size Chewbacca bust. And we were talking about the length of plan that people wanted. I'd be curious where people would want their plans to be on something that's, say, $400 or $500. When we're talking about pieces that are traditionally on our site on maybe a 3-month plan or a 4-month plan, is that enough in your mind? Is there something more than that you might want? I'd just be curious what folks say. For us, I tend to think on a $400 item, a 4 or 5 month plan feels about right. I think of some of the stuff that we have planned, and I go, boy, I'd pay $99 a month for that, no problem. But yeah, let us know. I love that kind of feedback. We really do want to keep that conversation going and see what folks think.
All right, David asks, will the new archive products go up for pre-order during celebration or after?
The new stuff that we're going to show at the show will almost entirely be after the show. We have one item that will be available at the show. What I will say is this, really trying to thread a needle here with what we're allowed to say. The one piece that will be available at the show is a specific edition of another piece that we will be offering shortly after the show. Because of how we've been encouraged to work with that particular piece, it is an in-person exclusive at the show. However, if you weren't able to get at the show, you will have another way to get this piece. It'll be just a week or two later that it will go up for order, and it's just going to be a slightly different edition, and hopefully that's enough to give something special to the folks who have been to the show or had friends go pick things up for them at the show, and still have it be a piece that people can bring into their collection shortly after and become the start of their archive.
All right, David asks, what kind of edition sizes can we expect from the archive collection? Low sizes like CZ3 or larger sizes like the Jabba Maquette?
So most of the maquettes we've done, Jabba, Tauntaun, Gamorrean, have all been 250. And I feel that's a pretty good place for those. Those are extremely low numbers in the collectibles game. They're pretty high numbers for us in terms of how we make things. But the Jabba sold out relatively quickly, again, for us. The other two were going, but those are a little higher priced items. They're still, the Tauntauns are getting close. The Gamorrean is the newest, so, but I think we want to make sure, especially on the maquettes, that we're not making these things unattainable. I think it's important that people have a chance to build this collection over time, and that maybe as people discover this a few maquettes in, there's still a chance for them to maybe get the previous one or maybe the one before that. So our goal is to make the numbers on those comfortable for collectors. Still low enough that these are really special. I mean, 250 of anything in the world of Star Wars at this point is a pretty low edition. When we get into the bigger stuff, if you're talking about a bust, if you're talking about a prop replica, those are the things that are more likely to be lower than that. I think, Salacious Crumb, we did the edition of 150 pieces, and that sold out within about 2 days, and that was I think that was $4,500 when we put those out. That says to me on those bigger items that we're probably going to be in that range. But it depends on the piece. Some might be complicated to make, so we want to make fewer. Some might be complicated and thus need a higher price, and because of that, we'll maybe pull the number back a little bit. Or maybe we get something that's a little more straightforward, and we think, okay, maybe instead of 150, we'll do 175 or 200. Regardless, the goal definitely isn't flooding any kind of market with this stuff, and our goal would be to keep those edition sizes manageable for us in terms of making them, small in terms of helping these pieces hold up their value over time, but high enough so that people aren't blocked out of this thing in minutes. The last thing we want is to sell something that, tons of fans want and sells out in 5 minutes and no one has a chance at it. We want people to feel like they have a shot at this stuff. So it's a balancing game. That's something that may adjust over time, up or down, based on all of the factors we were just talking about. It's something that we talk about a lot here and with Lucasfilm, and go back and forth in terms of what makes the most sense for each individual edition. And we definitely put a lot of thought into it, and we love hearing feedback on that stuff. So as with before, put the comments in there.
Going back to the payment plans, Robert says $400 to $500 would be a 3-month plan for him. Mm-hmm. And Steve chimes in and says payment plans are great, 3 to 4 months on lower priced items and at least 12 months on higher priced.
Okay.
Parminder asks, will the maquettes all be from the original trilogy?
Not necessarily, but right now that's what we have planned. One of the things that we run into a lot is just how much we want to do from the original trilogy. I don't think we're going to be happy until like we could sit in the middle of a room like that shot of George Lucas with all the models and maquettes and monsters around him like that. Or for me, like looking like Rick Baker with the Duro's hand on his head when everybody's lined up with all the Cantina monsters. But that's this factor of time. We have a huge amount of information now, I mean, legitimately our own archive of the pieces that we want to put out there, and we've got to be careful we don't, hammer you guys with too much of this at once. So it's going to take us a long time to get through that stuff. I mean, we have the foundation for years of product based on this. And I'm sure we'll ramp up some, definitely with the ability to do more of the maquettes and the smaller pieces in the mix. I think, people probably would be open to having a maquette come out in a month, the next month maybe a bust, another maquette 2 months after that, maybe a prop replica shortly after. I think you can absorb that. But when you start to run that out and you start to put it on a calendar, you quickly realize, you could be going through 7 to 10 pieces in a year, and that's a drop in the bucket compared to what we have planned, and have desire to make. So, it might take us a little while to get to some prequel stuff or sequel stuff. But, who knows? We've put some research in on some of that stuff, so you never know.
And well, Brett asks, well, actually says, I need that Dexter Jester maquette from the episode 2 making of DVD feature.
It's a cool maquette, man. It's, that whole section, that whole area where they've got the prequel maquettes is insane.
Nice.
It's such a different thing, and I find this happens a lot when you have an old series that gets revived. It's almost like when you look at the sequel trilogy aliens, or even some of the Mando and Book of Boba aliens versus the original trilogy aliens. They're doing the same creatures, but they're doing them to such a new level in terms of the level of detail, level of sculpting, level of paint, level of articulation. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that happens with those maquettes. The stuff from Phil's team on Return of the Jedi in particular is wildly imaginative. They're really cool in terms of designs and things like that, but they're really crudely painted, and they're rough sculpts. They're concepts, they're sketches. I personally love that about them, but then on the flip side, you have some of these prequel maquettes that come in that could be a finished statue. They're beautifully sculpted, amazing detail, crisp and sharp, and just, wonderfully symmetrical. It's really neat to see the difference between the two, and within sort of the same space, with a few rows of racks from each other, to travel from one time to another and just see that change in work. It's really neat. It's a cool experience.
All right, Aaron asks, will the maquettes only be creatures?
Right now, if you're asking towards things like vehicles and stuff like that, right now that would fall under EFX's license. So, for anything that is, it's funny, so our license does allow us to do vehicles in the context of furniture. So that's why you see things like our asteroid coffee table with the Millennium Falcon flying through the asteroids and things like that. But if you're talking about just strictly models, You've got, I think, is it Kotobukiya that also has some? Was it them that did the Perfect Grey Falcon? Yeah, D'Agostini had it for a little while. I don't know that they still do. EFX has a studio scale license right now. So those particular elements of license are tied up and not something in our purview. But there's certainly plenty of creatures to play with, so that makes me happy.
Similar to that question, Garrett asks, any transitions to helmets or weapons?
Probably. So I would say this: weapons. There's a few. Yeah, there's a couple things in the works, and with that, there's on the licensing side, there's some stuff that has to be done for each one. That's a case by case thing when it comes to our license. In terms of helmets, probably not something you're going to see from us. EFX is doing those. De Nuo Novo, who picked up the high-end costuming license, they also do that sort of thing, although in a different style. So that's not really something we would push into. I think the good thing about what we're doing in general, and I think anybody who's been following along with us or goes to the website, we're looking in different corners than the usual licensee. Most of these maquettes and things, even the ones we've done, traditional licensee wouldn't even want to look at them, and that's great for us. This is our zone. That's the stuff we love. So you're going to see non-traditional stuff from us. You're going to find stuff you're not going to get elsewhere. You're going to see characters. I mean, the CZ3 bust. Who looked at that dopey clown droid and said, "Yeah." I mean, I did, but and a whole bunch of you did, and that's great. But that's the sort of stuff we love. We love the stuff that's in the periphery, the cool background characters, the bounty hunters and the monsters and the guy in the pit and all of that fun stuff. And that's the sort of stuff that we're gonna be pushing out there.
Parminder wins the comment of the day with Boba rode a Rancor that's technically now a vehicle. She's not wrong.
All right. Accurate.
CC comments, I'm excited for any props and artifacts. Tony says...
I love the word artifacts, by the way.
Me too.
That's a really big one for us. That's what these things are. And when we're examining these things, like they feel like that, and that's something that we're trying to capture with all the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, so Tony says his only feedback is he would like as much notice as possible for the upcoming releases.
We would like that too.
Yeah, we would.
And what I would just say is we will always give folks as much notice as we are permitted, and we will do our best. It's something that we're pushing for, something that we're trying to do as much as we can with. But we also have to do things within a system, and we do the best we can.
A couple people throwing out ideas. Andrew says the Java hookah pipe bowl with a frog. Mike says that concept bib would be awesome.
Yeah.
Robert says, at one time you talked about a release of a Tuscan gaffy stick. Are they still an item you were planning on releasing? They fall under props and replicas, I thought.
So those would fall under props and replicas, wouldn't they? And they're cool artifacts, and I think the archives, has some stuff that someone could have gone in and scanned. So I would just say stay tuned.
Joe is asking if there's going to be any Kitster merchandise.
Joe, I mean, he's high on the Regal list. It's just going to take some time to get there. Sit tight, Joe.
Yeah, and
get on that mailing list. Because if we're ever going to do Kitster stuff, it's going to be announced in the mailing list. So if you're not on it, go to the main page, scroll right down to the bottom, and you just type in your email address, and you'll get all the Kitster emails.
Scott says it's high time for some Regal Robot Star Wars Holiday Special merchandise.
Oh, boy, I mean, if only.
I think I am caught up on comments and questions right now.
That's probably, I'm checking my notes. I think that's about everything. The main thing I would say is, I jokingly talk about the mailing list, talk about this a lot. If you're not on it, throw your email on there. We do not hammer you with a bunch of spam. We only use it to let folks know about real news about the stuff we're doing. I wish I had more to physically show you today, but we're really just 2 weeks away from being able to show the first piece in this collection, and just another 2 or 2.5 weeks after that, we'll be revealing a ton of stuff.
Robert is looking to get some Regal Robot t-shirts. How would you go about doing that?
Well, gee, Robert, thank you. They're sharp, aren't they? They happen to be on our website, and so you can go to regalrobot.com and go to the More Decor section. That's the non-Star Wars part of our site. I know nobody goes there, but and if you go there, the Regal t-shirts are right in there. You can order them, and Katie or Christine will ship one right out to you.
They were caught up.
Terrific. Well, thank you all for watching. Again, please do consider getting on that mailing list. If you happen to be seeing this and you don't already follow our page, please hit like and subscribe, or like and follow, or wherever you're seeing it. Do whatever the thing is that makes you follow what we're doing. And really keep your eyes peeled. So, like I said, May 12th, you'll get the first taste of what this new collection is going to be, the first reveal. By the time we get to Star Wars Celebration, you're going to see a lot more. And shortly after Star Wars Celebration, you're going to get the opportunity to order some of these for yourselves. And I'm just so excited to share more as soon as we can. Thanks.